Directly above the Hollywood sign, it's ChrenBen's Friend Trends with Aaron Crennan and Ben Lepley, the working model of a healthy friendship.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us on the ChrenBen's Friend Trends podcast. My name's Aaron Crennan, and I'm alongside my best friend, Ben Lepley. How you doing, Ben?
I am clinically depressed.
Just kidding, Aaron. It's great to be here.
I was like, is it because it's after July 4th, and now it's July 5th, and the summer's already, like, halfway over?
July 5th's great. It's my mom's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Lisa.
Well, thank you very much. Now people know two of my internet security question answers. What's your mom's first name and what's her date of birth? But they don't know the year, and they don't know her full first name because Lisa's short for something. And you'll never guess what.
Well, anyway, we're alongside our friend, Colin Murphy. How you doing, Colin?
I'm doing great, guys. Glad to be back on the podcast.
Yeah,
here.
Colin was on the podcast once before, but his audio got corrupted, so unfortunately that podcast is lost to time. So we're going to make it up today.
It was a great.
It was a real shame, too, because I like that one. It was an early on one, and now I can only feel like it's going to be better. So
we've been practicing since then. We're more seasoned. I think it's going to be a lot tighter, a lot more focused.
I think so.
Jesus,
I agree.
I fucking hope so for your sake, man.
Oh, my gosh.
I hope you can button it down.
There's some real pressure that you're
button
putting
down
on
your story and focus and fucking make this a funny podcast.
Hey, remember when you called me? You're like, "Hey, man, let's hang out and do a podcast." And then,
hey, Colin, come on by.
Now I'm here, and like you're threatening my life if this podcast.
I like how I'm threatening you on the podcast and being nice to you off air.
I know. Like, isn't it supposed to be the other way around? Like, can't you hold up signs that say I'm going to kill you if this goes wrong?
Oh, that would be you trying to convince the audience. He's got a sign that says I'm going to kill you. I assure you that's not true.
We were talking a little bit before the podcast in our pre-podcast roll, which you can download on iTunes. Subheading ChrenBen's pre-podcast roll. And Aaron called Colin Smurfy as sort of a joke instead of Colin Murphy, Smurfy. And it turns out that you have a dog or had a dog named Smurfy.
Had a dog.
Oh, emphasis on had.
Dog.
Oh, no, what happened?
When I was a kid, we had a beagle. My older brothers and I, my younger brother and younger sister, I'm one of five. They were too young to remember this, but my two older brothers and I had a dog. It was a beagle, and we named it Smurfy Murphy. And like when we first got it, it was like very much like, oh, we're gonna take care of this dog so much. Like we're gonna make sure, we're gonna overfeed it. You know, we love it
too much.
Feed it, love it too much, and that lasted for like a week, And then from that point on, it was pretty much my parents were in charge of taking care of this dog.
Do you remember how old you were?
I was probably like seven
Oh,
or eight.
they were fools to get you a dog that young.
But my older brothers were like 10 and like 11, 10 or 12. Like they were the age that they could have that responsibility or like at least boss me around and make me do the job, at least do that much.
Right.
But we totally like started failing to do our chores with the dog. And so my parents like got fed up with that, and then I specifically remember the last straw being the beagle literally pooped in one of my dad's like loafers, and I thought to myself, as an adult thinking back on the story that my dad told me about this dog doing this, I thought to myself how much effort must have gone into pooping in a shoe for a dog,
lining his butt up to the shoe heel.
Yeah, like sort of just like getting and dogs obviously look so awkward anytime they poop.
Right.
Too. It's like to do that and then also try and incorporate aiming into it must have been such a difficult chore.
I don't think I could do it if I tried.
No. As a human, no way.
I'm sure some would get in, but not all of it.
I know dogs look awkward when they poop, but maybe it's actually because they're like more on their haunches. It is actually easier to aim than us.
And
maybe
they always look so ashamed too.
Oh, always. Yeah, their eyes are a a little like squinted. Like
why?
Yeah, sorry.
And the really little ones shake, and that's what I think is
the worst. The worst. Well, nonetheless, that was the last straw. And
oh no!
And my dad got rid of the dog.
What do you mean got rid of?
I don't,
maybe he lost it in a poker game.
that would be probably the best case scenario.
Did he take him out to the wilderness, or did he take him to a pound?
Old Yeller style?
I want to say I hope he found a home for the dog. But
wait, he never told you?
I never wanted to ask because I was afraid of what the answer would be as an adult. looking back on it, but he did something with this dog, so it was no longer in our house at the time.
Are you comfortable calling him now as an adult and asking him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's safe to say, regardless, that dog's dead right now.
But
Today.
yeah, okay, I guess that's true.
In 2014.
This was well over 15 years ago.
You never know. It was a beagle. They're small breeds. Small breeds tend to live longer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, for some reason I thought this happened in 92 or something. So
No, it
the
did.
dog. Oh, so it's like 22 years ago.
It could be. It could be 22 years old.
I somehow
Yeah,
doubt
it's a
that.
lot.
No, man.
It's
My
a-
Bashan lived till 19.
And
There
we're
was-
talking about 22, Ben.
Yeah.
We're talking
Big difference.
We're talking years, 3 years, Ben.
That's your dog,
No,
that's
we're really
21.
talking like 21 extra
Yeah,
years.
right.
Like from 19 to 22.
Well,
7
and then
dog
in
years.
dog years, that's 147 dog years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
It's a lot
dog
of dog
years.
years.
of dog
Well, I
years.
think it's our the three of us have a mutual hope that the dog lived out its days in peace and happiness. And and speaking of peace and happiness, Colin, I hope you call your father and get some closure on
I
this.
do need to call my dad and get some closure on
Just
that.
ask him where
That
the
would have
dog
been a
went.
great Father's Day question.
Yeah, I know. Hey, Dad,
Dad,
what happened?
remember 21 years ago, there was a dog in our house. What if he's like, no, there wasn't?
He just doesn't. He's blocked it. It's so like cartoonish to me. The thought of him stepping into a shoe and there being poop, and then him being like, "That's the last straw," and then you just don't know what happened to the dog. He's just gone the next day.
Well, part of the problem was my brothers and I didn't notice the dog was gone for a week after we got rid of it.
You really weren't taking care of him.
We weren't. Like, I don't know. We were so busy with school.
So busy.
We were so busy with school, colors, shapes, all that.
Coming
Like,
every night,
I
throwing your
couldn't be
backpack on the
bothered.
floor. Ugh, exhausted.
Ugh.
Where's the dog? I don't know. I'll pet him tomorrow.
I don't know. I've got a name tag I've been working on for a week. That got to
This
put on
alphabet is
on my
tricky.
Hmm.
How
Have you
much-
counted out? Have you counted past 20? I have.
and you're like, I know that's how old this dog's going to be someday.
Yeah. Let's hope. Best case scenario, it went to a neighbor and it lived a happy life. Worst case scenario, it went to a pound and had a week.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bring this down at all, but I can imagine a much worse scenario.
No,
than
okay.
that. I'm
All
not
right.
going to bring it up. But I
No, you grew up in the suburbs, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I don't think any old Yeller stuff happened. I think he probably found someone. Although I don't know your father, so
I don't.
is he a cruel man?
He's not a cruel man.
Good.
He's a sweet
I'm
man.
sure he found.
I'm sure he
found
looked
someone.
into that dog's eyes before he let him go wherever he let him go.
The fact that you didn't see him for like a week, or you didn't notice he was gone for a week, maybe your dad just actually kept him, and you just didn't notice him for like the next several years, like running around the house.
No, he's always in a different part of the home than you were in.
Ghost dog.
In your mansion. Oh my God!
Well, actually,
Yeah, my mansion.
all the corridors the
No,
dog could be hiding in.
No, I actually lived in Bangor, Maine at the time.
Oh, I guess I didn't know you lived
Julie
in
the
Maine.
Cat Gaffney from
Yeah. We lived in a house that was like
Mighty Ducks.
Oh, right. Good reference.
We lived in a house that was like well over 100 years old at the time. Like it had
Wow.
actually probably like over 150 years old because it like had like hiding spots that were quote unquote from like the Underground
Well,
Railroad
that's where
days.
the dog lived.
Yeah, probably. No, there were like floorboards that came up. It was a really cool
That's very
old
cool.
house. Yeah,
It's very cool.
It
That is
needed
awesome.
to be like lifted off the foundation. It was very old and needed work, but so we just moved instead.
Oh, that's
We
nice.
either put in the time and effort, or we just move across the country, and we decided to move across the country.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
So actually, that story kind of reminded me just of what I was going to talk about today was it would take it back to a more simpler time back in 1999. So the dog probably still alive at this point. Just want all our listeners to know that I absolutely think the dog was still alive.
Smurfy was still
And Smurfin's still
kicking it.
running strong, looking at people in those eyes, shitting in shoes, doing whatever he does.
Yeah.
But where were you guys on New Year's Eve 1999 going into 2000? Do you guys remember?
Yeah. I remember I wanted to go to a party really bad, like, and just experience that because we were what, freshmen in high school or something.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to like the Civic Center in downtown Des Moines with my family, and like we had to get dressed up, and there was like a concert, like a classical music concert.
A Pops.
Yeah, like a pop. Yeah, exactly, like a pop symphony thing. And looking back, I'm like, oh, that's actually very nice that like my family bought tickets to that and put in the efforts to have us have a nice night. But at the time, being like 13 or 14, whatever, I was like, man, I wish it's like the Millennium. I wish it was like a real party. And I wasn't even a party kid. I just wanted to like experience the millennium that way because of what I'd seen of parties on TV shows and in movies.
Right.
So I was probably not enjoying myself as much as I should have. I guess what I'm trying to say is I should have been grateful. I feel bad about it. It was very self-centered, and God, I miss my dog.
Colin, do you remember what you did?
Yeah, where were you, man?
I was at one. I was thinking about this. I was at one of two places. I was either at the kid's house that when I was growing up was like if you wanted to go somewhere where there was lax supervision, that's where you go. I was either there on New Year's Eve, or I think I was probably at. We had a family friend that hosted like New Year's Eve every year, and we played like board games. And
Nice.
half of the people like fell asleep before midnight.
Even on Y2K night?
Oh, I guess that was Y2K.
It was,
yeah.
I remember not really being worried about it.
Yeah.
Even though like we should have been because it was all over the news like as a big horrible thing.
Yeah.
I think there had been enough jokes at that time where everyone seemed...
It diffused the tension. Yeah.
And they had known about it for like a year.
Yeah.
If it would have been like December 25th, like Christmas, like newspapers come rolling out, and then be like, the impending Y2K we just realized was going to happen. And
A
it would
week
have been
away.
like anarchy, like riots in the streets. I can only imagine how bad that would be.
Probably.
But so what I was doing, actually, I worked at a grocery store called Dolls.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't ask you.
Oh no, that's where I was going.
That's
with
so
this.
rude of us.
I
No, I
know.
mean, it's,
No,
you
it's
asked,
fine,
you
guys.
asked us.
No,
about-
it's cool. It's
and then
cool.
you took that beat and you were like, "What I was doing." I'm so sorry, dude. God, such a fucking idiot.
Aaron, could you explain in detail where you were?
Yeah,
in
tell us a
1999
story.
New Year's Eve.
So I was 50. I just turned 15 because my birthday's on December 29th. Security answer. And and I was working at Dolls in Iowa. I assume a lot of places you can work once you're 14, but you couldn't work past 7 o'clock on weeknights. And if you didn't have school the next day, you could work till 10. So because it was New Year's Eve, we didn't have school the next day, so I could work until 10. And then I was actually scheduled to work at 7 in the morning the next day. So, like, I didn't even really have, like, there wasn't really adequate time to sleep even for that. Like, you know, it was like I had 9 hours in between. Like, I don't know what they were expecting. It was like working me raw during this time off.
Wait, were you like a bag boy? Or
I was a bag. Well, there's a few things I did. I basically was a bag boy, and then we also had the drive up grocery delivery. So instead of, they didn't want, because of the snow and stuff, and it would just ruin carts, so they always left the carts inside, and then there was like an awning that you could go to the side, and they have like a ticket, and they drive around, and then I would be the one in charge of like putting the bags in their cars. And that was always a very stressful job because people are very particular about their cars, and it was a lot of old people especially, and it was always Cadillacs. And like after the first Cadillac, I learned that once you kind of put the hood down or the trunk down, it like automatically closes. But every Cadillac owner assumed I didn't know that, so they're like, "Don't slam the trunk," and I'm like, "I wasn't going to. I'm well aware." But
Don't backtalk me.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, all of them have screwed up and not realized that, and that's why they think everybody else is going to get that
absolutely.
wrong as well.
You have like that script already laid out as you walk up to the car. I'm gonna get told the following. I can't say the following, or I'll get told the following.
Right. And the horrible part about this job is that even though we were kind of doing a little bit of a service that like you would expect sometimes people, if there's a lot of groceries, you get like $1 tip maybe. And I certainly wouldn't expect that from everyone, but on the ticket they gave you, it said specifically no tipping. And so people would like be handing me like a $5 bill because I would have done like a lot of groceries for them over the course of a month.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Oh, right. No tipping, that's right." And they kind of put it back in.
No.
And I only got tipped twice. And like I remember even on one time I was like, "I'm not sure if I'm allowed to take that." And he's like, "Son, you could take it." I was like, "Oh, thank you, sir." And I felt like as I was only making like $5.50 an hour there,
Yes.
which is just pennies to the dollar. Like for what I was doing,
Right.
It was when it was busy, and it was also outside, so it was either very cold or very hot. It was a miserable job.
Yeah.
But when I was inside sacking, I actually became a very good or bagging, I guess.
Yeah. No, I like sacking.
Yeah,
better.
no, I sacked
I prefer that
groceries.
you sacked your groceries.
And then I became very good at it. That was more of a game for me. But anyways, so I worked till 10 the night before, and there was a lot of people like buying party stuff, so it was like a lot of like 24 packs of beer, a lot of like heavier type things like that, and everyone is just packing their cars tight. And so I came home, and my best friend at the time, Dan Brower, another security answer,
Who is your best friend pre-Bad Leftly?
that's how you log into this podcast domain, by the way.
I loved Aaron and Dan's best friend podcast.
Oh yeah.
They had a podcast?
No,
Yeah.
In the
great.
90s?
It was great.
It was like a radio show podcast.
Yeah,
a little
it was
different.
so nice.
Bullshit.
They had like free chips and water for all the guests.
It was before iPods. It was on
You want some chips and water, Colin? Is that what we're going?
it was on
No,
Rio's.
no,
You guys remember Rio?
I was on download it through the Rio app.
It was just Sun Chips, really. It was only Sun Chips.
We don't have any chips,
Original.
Colin. I'm really sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
So so I worked till 10, and then Dan Brower came over, and like we were really excited, but we didn't really know what we were going to do, except for one thing we knew we were going to do, which was play Worms Armageddon. And Worms Armageddon is a computer game, and it was fabulously fun. And
Yes.
the idea was to stay up all night and play that. And
Good
so
idea.
like at 10 o'clock, Dan comes over around 10:30. And we start like my mom had snacks prepared, like Chex Mix and everything, and
Chips and water.
yeah, chips and
Yeah. Oh, even
Jesus
man,
Christ.
I remember. Oh gosh, was your mom around when you were doing that podcast?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like she was bringing me chips and water and hugs. Lots of hugs.
Lots of
mom
She liked to
hugs.
bring hugs. Actually, at Dolls, I used to sack hugs. You could buy them. That's where my
nice.
mom got all hers.
I love that it was like a Tetris game for you.
Oh, it absolutely! So much was. It was so much fun too. I just hated going outside in the dreaded heat / cold.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening? We played Worms Armageddon, and then it was like 11:55, and we didn't really have a game plan. Like no one else was over. I didn't. I don't know what anyone else was doing, but like I knew I couldn't do anything too extreme because I had to work the next day at like 7. So that was a real shot in the arm of like anti-funness. So what we decided to do was, and this actually became a tradition year after year for like the next 6 years, is I lived kind of at the bottom of a hill. And we knew that there would be like fireworks and stuff just kind of going around the city. So we walked to the top of a hill. And the other thing about that is where a really hot girl lived from our high school. And our hope was that she would happen to be outside as well, and we would at least get a chance to talk to her. And that was we actually had that game plan a few times, like over the past summer. We had just kind of like walked up there and like just played catch with a ball, and then she'd be like, "What are you guys doing out here?" We're like, "Oh, we're just walking around the neighborhood."
You know that hot girl who lives at that cottage at the top of the hill?
So you say like
it's a classic story, guys.
you say it's like the only house. Like there wasn't even a street leading up to it.
That's what I envisioned when you said
Grass.
hill. I just imagined a grassy hill with a lone little cartoonish house at the top.
At
Who
the
lives
top
up
of a
there?
street.
Oh, the pretty girl on top of Pretty Hill.
Actually, a little side note about her. That same girl is in elementary school. She went to a different elementary school, and my friends convinced me that they had asked her out for me and that we were dating during the 6th grade track meet. And I totally believed them. And then I talked to her, and she's like, "Well, that's not true." And I was like, "Of course it's not." And it was the most embarrassing thing to happen to myself to date. I have much more embarrassing things have happened since then. But so, anyways, we got to the top of the street, and it was like 1 minute till, and we're waiting for the girl to come outside, and she never did. But what did happen was a different woman was outside, and on top of her roof was a woman who shouted, "Don't come any closer."
All right.
And we're like, oh, right. This was the hot girl's next door neighbor. I had never seen this person in my life. For how often I was up there, never before in my life. And we're like, oh, and they're like, "What are you doing outside?" We're like, "We're just looking for like fireworks or anything we can see in the sky, or just if." And we also were like, "What if anything crazy happens?" Because it was Y2K,
Right, yeah. You maybe see all the lights shut down in the city.
And then you see in like the glimmer of the light that she is holding a shotgun.
Oh my God.
And we're like, "Oh my God, is that a gun?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for looters." And we're like, "Jesus Christ!" Like she was so serious. And she
Oh
goes,
my God.
"Walk away right now." And we're like, "No, honestly, it's like midnight right now. We're just here to look for fireworks." And she's like, "I don't trust you. You're looters, aren't you?" I was like, "I'm 15 years old." It was so crazy.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And then you stole everything from her front yard.
Right. But she like stayed on the roof for a long time.
You
and,
should have called the police. That's like so crazy. That
It was, but at the same time, I think we're kind of forgetting, like, there were some of those people that were, like, that seemed almost normal to us. Like, if there were looters, though, she'd be the first to get them.
Yeah, right. like I
Good
feel
on her.
I can just see, like, the looters hitting, like, 5 houses and then getting there, and it's like, game over.
Right. Oh.
So we eventually like gained her trust so as not to get shot.
Oh, well, that's good.
But
Through talking?
yeah, it was just like
Through
no,
shouting?
I was like, I live down the road, and then like she knew, like I was like next to the house with the boat.
You answered a security question about your mom's first name?
I answered a few street-related security questions. What's the name of the boat? Banana 2. All right. So yeah, that was basically like how I spent my New Year's, and then like it was like petrified, and we came back home like a few minutes like after we had done talking to her, and my mom was like, so how was it? And we're like, there's a woman up the street with a shotgun. And like actually comparing this to like the other story I had about like lighting the door on fire, and then, like just those other twins up the street, a lot of crazy things kind of happened.
Yeah, you did. You had a cast of characters on that
Yeah,
street.
it really was. And so the most anticlimactic part of the story is like, then when we got home, Dan was like, well, I'm pretty tired. And so he like falls asleep on the couch next to the computer. I play Worms Armageddon for like another 45 minutes and just kind of fall asleep myself.
Oh, man.
And then like at 6:30, I wake up and my mom drives me to work. And for the first 2.5 hours we were open on New Year's Eve or New Year's morning, no one came to the store.
Wow.
And I fell asleep on like a stack of grocery bags that were in the back, and I kind of made like a makeshift recliner. And then finally some like cart came, but like, and what the worst part is, my buddy Bobby Doff, you know, Ben, he worked there too, and at 8 o'clock he came in, and they're like, well, it's pretty slow. And then 9 o'clock rolled around, and he's like, well, Bob, you can go home. And I was like, what about me? So I had to stay the full 6 hours, and I was there until 1, and it was awful.
Well, dude, you clocked an easy $30.
I know, and that's the worst part.
Yeah, it's not even worth
the paychecks there were so minuscule. I couldn't even save up for things, because it would be gone in like a second. It was awful.
Gosh. But I think I'm going to stick with the grocery store theme
Oh, yeah?
for my next story
Oh.
that I have here.
Dish, Colin, dish.
All right, I'll dish. No, I told you I lived in Bangor, Maine when I was a little kid, and then when I was like 9, my family moved to the Seattle area. I lived in a town about 30 minutes south of Seattle, in a town called Kent, Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't act like you've heard of it.
No, I have heard of Kent. I seriously have. I don't know how. I
Probably from me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess I've known you for a while. No, I swear I know someone else from Kent. I'll think about it.
All right.
I'll tune out the story and
Is
think.
it a dog named Smurfy? Oh, that dog probably would have lived in Maine.
No, it might have made it to Kent. Smurfy might have made it to Kent, guys. homeward, the heck of a homeward bound story is what it was.
Hitchhiking with his little paw.
Yeah.
I miss my family.
Pooping in any shoe he can find along the way.
They don't miss me.
they don't want me
They're
back.
too busy.
So anyways, so when I was in high school, living in Kent, Washington, the weekends were not too exciting usually. In fact, majority of the time, your Friday and Saturday night started out with, hey, let's go see who's hanging out in the QFC parking lot. And QFC was it stood for Quality Food Centers. I don't know. that's like a grocery store, and like everybody, like people would just.
Can I be honest? That sounds like a dystopian future. Like
Right.
all food is poison, and you have to go to like the one government distribution center of not poisonous food. Quality Food Center.
Quality, yeah. There's like really weird promos and propaganda for it. Yeah,
There's like lines of people in rags.
right.
You're getting the good bread.
Get the
Early in the day. Gotta wake up at sunrise.
Well, so on this one particular night, my friend Matt and Dustin and we pulled up to the QFC parking lot, and I don't believe anything was going on. Nothing was, there was no one there who was saying, hey, let's go randomly drive our cars around to some other spot and try and figure out something to do, which is normally what would happen from there.
Oh,
so,
I've been in that loop.
yeah, it's a loop like, hey, just, text me, call me. Well, I don't know. It might be I think maybe beepers were involved at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was pre-texting. I don't know.
Pre-beep?
Pre-beep. But nonetheless, so we found nothing at our usual go-to QFC spot. So we were just driving around Kent.
Scooping the loop.
Yeah, and meanwhile, our time ticked away till midnight, which is curfew for us on that particular night. And we got to about 11:30. or so, like between 11:30 and 11:45, and we're like, guys, like, I know we don't want to go home before curfew, so let's just like park somewhere in this neighborhood and just hang out, take a nap for like 20 minutes, and then go home.
So cool, you guys.
We like the thought.
God, you're so fucking cool.
For some reason, the thought of going home or like not right at your curfew time was just so lame to us.
I
It
feel
was
like
cooler to fall asleep.
I feel like a mom would be like, "Oh, 11:30. Maybe we should just bump your curfew up." And it's like, no,
No, we can't fill the
It's
time.
like a weird punishment.
Yeah,
for coming back
no, we
early.
can't fill the time already, Mom. So, and this was complete coincidence. The house that we parked in front of in this neighborhood happened to be a cute girl. Like
Oh
she's a
my.
very
happened to be.
like
okay.
nobody ever will ever believe. Like we didn't park in front of her house because we wanted to like try and call her or like talk to her in any way.
Quick tip: cottage at the top of the hill.
Yeah, right.
Never park in front of that. Always
Yeah.
a hot girl
Oh, yeah.
or a
Oh,
shotgun
yeah.
woman.
Or yeah. Well, either way,
yeah.
either way, it's a party. So we parked in front of this house, and the plan was literally to just like, take a 20-minute nap and then drive.
Oh my God.
Wait,
then-
like in the car or
in the
outside?
car, in the car. Like, hey guys, let's
Were you
take
were you guys sleepy? Like were you tired?
we kind of, I guess we were tired because like, it was one of those things where like if you're not being active, you get more and more tired.
Right.
So like we didn't find anything cool to do that night, so we fell asleep.
Inactivity has caused you to nap.
Yep. It was. I mean, and once again, it's just the thought of us going home pre-curfew was
Yeah.
just so lame.
I'm
to
just
us.
surprised you guys didn't talk or like play cards.
No,
Just
like
that it
Hate
was
each other?
a nap,
Yeah.
silence,
Yeah, right.
dozing off.
No, but and so you would think, okay, 20-minute nap, nothing can go wrong with three guys parked in a car. 20-minute nap, and then they go home right on curfew. Everything's perfect. But all of a sudden, this girl's parents pull up into the parking or into their driveway.
God.
And little did we know, this girl who we all were friends with, relatively, maybe somewhat, she was grounded,
Oh, okay.
and she was inside. And so these parents thought, when they saw us parked in front and they saw three boys in the car, thought that their daughter had invited over boys, even though she was grounded and supposed to not be hanging out with anyone
Poor
at
girl.
all. Yeah.
She had nothing to do with this.
Nothing at all. But like, so
What are you doing here? Just napping, I swear.
No, yeah, right. Yeah, even now,
Mom, Dad, I don't know these guys.
Yeah,
Seriously,
right.
They're just sleeping.
it's so stupid.
Don't give us that, Jessica.
So dumb. But of course, they get out of their car and they see us and they walk over to our car, and we're thinking to ourselves, we have done nothing wrong. We're
Right.
like parked in a car, napping, doing the lamest thing we could possibly do on a weekend night as teenagers. And like her mom just knocks on the window, and we're like, okay, I mean, we've got nothing to hide here. We did nothing wrong. And she's like, what are you guys doing tonight? And I'm like, we're literally just hanging out in our car. Which even now, like, I totally get why a parent would be like, no, you guys
No
are
way.
total lying.
No
You're
way
liars.
would anyone ever believe that.
Yeah, which is almost an insult. It's almost like
I almost don't believe
yeah,
you.
I know,
as you tell this story.
right. Like, even though it's the truth, totally the truth. So she like didn't believe us at all, and like the mom, like looked at like my friend Dustin was in the driver's seat, Matt was in the passenger seat, and I was in the back seat, and like the mom like looks at Dustin like, Dustin, Matt, and then she looks back at me, and like I hadn't really met
Yeah.
her mom.
Okay.
So like, or maybe like I'd met her in passing one time. So we have like a fourth friend who wasn't there with us that night. His name's Ryan. And the mom goes, like, looks at Dustin, says, Dustin, Matt. She looks back at me, like, contemplates for like a couple of seconds, like, Ryan. And I was like, and like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm free. I'm totally free. Yes, my name's Ryan. I'll give you my address if you like. Yes, you've got it right. But nonetheless, she berated us all for lying, even though we were not lying. We
That's
literally
amazing.
had done nothing wrong, and then finally she like let us go, even though like I guess she threatened to call our parents. I think at one point, but we were like, well yeah, we'll tell them we're on our way home now on curfew. So she I think she realized that either nothing had gone on or we were just ridiculous and actually just napped, and she sort of let it go and like walked back into the home. And then of course the next day, like this girl, her name's Alyssa, came up to the three of us and like, what the hell were you doing? My mom like yelled at me for like the next half hour, and I literally did nothing wrong.
And she also,
a lot, guys.
what's funny is she has no information with which to defend herself either. It's like,
not at all.
Alyssa, who are those boys? Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. Those three boys outside. Like she's trying to like gain info from the accusation.
Right.
Like,
Ryan was there?
Yeah, Ryan.
He's out of town.
Right, yeah. Yep, clearly Matt, Dustin, and Ryan. Emphasis on Ryan.
Her yelling at Ryan at school the next day would be the most confusing thing.
Yeah.
3 boys were napping outside of her house. She got accused of something, and then a boy who is mistaken and not there gets yelled at by the girl. So many layers of misunderstanding.
And like to this day, I can't remember if I ever got in trouble like seeing her mom again when she realized that my name was not Ryan.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it ever came out ever again. I don't know.
It kind of depends on what kind of woman she is, if she'd really like remember that.
Well, clearly she doesn't have good memory with faces.
Oh, right, yeah.
If she's already confusing you with someone else.
Right. Yeah.
Making these assumptions.
But like, you know, made it home by curfew, and didn't go home early because that would have been real stupid.
The real moral of this story is don't be lame.
Don't be lame. Take a nap in front of some girl's house. And hope that the parents don't show up.
I like the idea that if you would have taken a 20-minute nap and your mom would have like asked you when you got home, she's like, "Aren't you tired, Colin?" And you're like, "Oh no, I could go another hour."
Wide awake. All right,
Why
great.
is
Well,
that?
let's extend your curfew.
No. You guys are really like trying to get my curfew extended.
Yeah, someday.
Don't you? I thought you want an extended curfew to like 1 a.m.
1 a.m. Like, well, I don't want to sleep in front of that girl's house that
hour 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know. You know, yeah. Isn't it like 40 minutes is like an ideal, or like 45 minutes?
I think it's 90 minutes.
Is that the ideal nap time?
I've heard that's like 90 minutes is what it takes from start to finish to go through your sleep cycle. So if you want to feel refreshed, you should plan for an hour and a half.
Guys, I want to focus on the fact that we're talking. Our listeners right now are hearing us talking about them sleep, how they should sleep,
and just trying to figure out how late we need to get this curfew extended for you.
Yeah,
would 1:30 be good?
I don't know. Like, I'm still working on it. My mom is really pretty strict still on 12 o'clock. You know, I got to call her from L.A.
You have to Skype and show that you're at home.
Mom, like, look, this is my house.
Is that a green screen, Colin?
No, Mom. No. I was just napping for 20 minutes and now I'm home. Don't worry about it.
Oh, my God.
Nothing exciting happens.
Well, I have a story today that I've actually never told anyone ever. And that includes Chren here.
What?
Me?
You. So, and I actually haven't told this story before because it's so gross. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's also really, it's a real gross story. So if you have a sensitive stomach, turn the podcast off in 3, 2. So the first place I lived out here was a little house in Palms, which is kind of by like Venice and sort of Santa Monica adjacent. And I loved it. I loved Palms. It was like right off Venice Boulevard. It was really cool. There were like all these great restaurants. It was a little shady, but not so shady that it was super dangerous. I had a great time there.
Yeah, I lived in Palms for a few years too.
I remember that.
Yeah,
actually, when we were in lab together, you were in that place in Palms still, and you were right off Venice too.
Yeah,
I just love that street. It's
cool.
really fun.
And it's pretty close to Culver Boulevard, which is cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
The only problem was that the house that I was subleasing a room out of was it had like a pretty bad cockroach problem.
Oh.
So, and I can't handle bugs in general. Like, I'm not a bug guy at all. I do not like them. And for whatever reason, cockroaches really just get the hair up on the back of my neck. And like for whatever reason too, like Iowa, we never really had roaches, you know?
No, yeah, we really didn't. I had never seen one until I moved out here.
Yeah.
And someone pointed it out to me and they're like, "That's a cockroach." I was like, "That's a cockroach."
Yeah, totally. And like we had like in Iowa, like our basements, we'd always like spiders and like centipedes, which were the freakiest things in the world. world. Centipedes are awful.
Centipedes are the worst creature. I'm so glad they're not here because they would be everywhere.
Absolutely. They're terrifying. But cockroaches, too, are just like, I mean, they can be so quick, the way they dart. And they're disgusting, too, because, like, if you have to kill one, it's like it's going to be a mess. And it's just, they're fucking horrible.
That guy, crunching noise that happens when he's...
I'm not even, like, at the story part yet. Just describing the setup is, like, making me cringe. So, but this house was actually very, aside from the cockroach issue, it was really cool. It had like a garden out front that had like a hammock, and like it felt very beachy. Like it felt like a beach house kind of, and like you could open the windows and get a good cross breeze. And the guy I actually was rooming with, he wasn't subleasing, but he just had a room there permanently. He actually became a really good friend. Like it was my first place in LA, and he really ended up showing me around, and we're still in touch to this day. Really nice guy. So I sort of was able to take the cockroach situation and put it on the back burner because I was like, a lot of this is good. I'm close to the beach, like the neighborhood.
No curfew.
No curfew, as to speak of. I did not have to be home by midnight, according to this roommate. Skype wasn't really big yet, so I didn't have to Skype my mom yet to tell her I was in.
Oh, man. But lucky one over here.
The thing was, though, that that roommate was out of town a lot. So he worked in Orange County at this time. He was like a consultant for a company down in Orange County. So a lot of times he'd actually just would get a hotel in Orange County so you wouldn't have to do the drive down and the drive back up. So a lot of times I'd have the place to myself for the entire week. And sometimes it actually got kind of freaky because, like, I sort of would realize, like, oh man, like I'm in not a bad but not a great neighborhood alone in this kind of old beach house, and I don't know if the locks really work, and I'm probably gonna be fine, but it's just sort of eerie sometimes at night. You hear things outside or whatever. And I remember I came out one night and there was a roach in the kitchen, and it like scuttled across the kitchen floor, and I saw it and I just went I just freaked out, and I jumped up on a couch, and I spent like the next hour to hour and a half with a sandal tiptoeing around the kitchen and around the dining area. I'd like look underneath the table really slowly, or underneath the counters, like around the plates, and like every once in a while I'd see it dart to another corner. I'd be like, and I'd run back and I'd jump back up on the couch like with the thing ready to strike. But I was like, God, like they're in the house, like this is the worst. And I remember I'd go outside, and like in the garden area, they were just all over once the sun went down. Like they'd be all over the plants, coming out of the dirt. We had a party there one night, and like if you had a plate of food and put the plate down, like if you looked down for a second, like 5 seconds later, there would be like a couple of cockroaches on your plate. Like you could never put it down. So like the fact that they were outside in that amount of number was really scary. But then the fact that I knew now that they were indoors too, there was like a loose one hither and dither running around on the floor. Like it was very on edge. And especially that I was like, it's funny if you have a roommate and you're like, hey dude, like let's kill this cockroach together. It's like, it's more of an event versus like I'm alone and these things are terrifying. So a couple weeks go by. I haven't seen one inside for a really long time, but they're getting really bad outside. Like every time you walk out to your car at night or come home late at night, like you have to like navigate around, and if you're wearing sandals, you're so terrified that one's gonna like run over your barefoot. So I really wanted to keep them outdoors, and I was just really on the hunt for anything that would look like a cockroach, like in the house, anywhere, and constantly like looking under chairs. It almost became like OCD. Like every time I'd walk by a couch, I'd like cautiously peer underneath it. So one night I look under a chair in the living room, and I actually see pills, and I'm like, this doesn't make, like, Oliver doesn't like take pills like that, or maybe he does, he just hasn't told me. It's not that he has to, I guess it's his business, not mine. And I'm like, is this like medication? So I take them out and I'm examining them, and they're like burgundy pills, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is this? Like, it's kind of a weird consistency. Like, does he need this? No. Is this like an antidepressant? Like, what is this? Oh, no. And I hold it up and I look at it, and I hold it too tightly, and it explodes into my eyeball. You know, God. Alien, like their acid blood, like, or they're like the stuff that comes out of the egg, like the like green brown goo. Yeah, it was that. Like it was that consistency. It was that color, and it went. It was absurd. It was a straight shot into my eyeball. And at first I'm like, what the fuck is this? And of course you guys know what this is, but I was so in denial. I was like, this can't happen to me.
It's a liquid gel,
right? So I go to my computer
Wait, would this I'm sorry, these pills, were they just in a pile?
No. It's like there were like two of them, like side by side.
Oh, okay.
So I get on the computer and I Google search like burgundy antidepressants, and nothing comes up for Google image search. And I'm like, okay, how about this? And I Google cockroach eggs. And these
just in case it might be
just in
cockroach.
case, and these fucking burgundy pill-shaped capsules pop up, and they've got like these little hair things on the edge, so that they can like grip to like cloth or clothing, so they can like secure them.
Oh my god!
And I immediately vomit. I go to the bathroom and I throw up in the toilet.
That almost made me vomit.
Oh, that is so.
And then I proceed, and I'm not exaggerating, I proceed to wash my eye 25 times to the point where my eye is like red around the edge. It looks like I have pink eye. I have just soap and hot water to my eyeball, hot water to my eyeball. And then I'm like, you're good. Let's just hit it a few more times just to make sure. Soap to my eyeball. It was disgusting. It was like, to this day, it actually kind of haunts me. And that's why I'm so anal retentive about cockroaches now. Like, if I see one anywhere, like we have like a few in like the alley outside of this place every once in a while, and I'm always just like, God, fuck, no. It just like, it takes me back to that day, and it's just
That's so disgusting.
it was the grossest thing ever. And like when my roommate came back into town too, like we got like huge cans of Raid and just like hit the garden. It was kind of like, have you seen Apocalypse Now? Like the beaches are like on fire with like what was that, the Napalm. Yeah, we like napalmed like the whole garden. It was horrible. The girl I was subleasing from was like very environmental and sort of like a hippie-ish type. And I remember she was like, just do me a favor. Can you just like water my sunflowers while I'm gone? She had a big stalk of sunflower, like a couple stalks of sunflowers in the corner. And they died because we were just spraying Raid all over the garden. But I had to. What choice did I have? I got cockroach juice in my eye.
Oh God.
It's awful.
Gross.
It's awful.
I guess I was terrified you were going to tell me you like tried these pills.
Oh, like I would have. I thought about that. I was like, if I was like a junkie or something, and I was like, well, free high, and then I just
Right.
To know like a year later.
Oh yeah, it's the thought of him still possibly being inside. Oh man, the worst.
I was actually thinking about that earlier today. Oddly enough, I was like, what if you got something so disgusting on your hand, and then you're like, oh, this is gross. And you washed your hand like once, but you washed it really well, and then you would like immediately started eating food. Mm-hmm. And then if you were to like get shit on your hand, and then you washed your hand really well, would you wash it even more or less before you thought you could eat food from that hand again? But then I was also thinking, I was like, what if you didn't realize it was shit? And then you watched it how much you thought you should wash your hand, and then you ate food from that hand, and then someone was like, you realized that was shit. Would you immediately think, I did not wash my hand well enough? And I still don't think you washed your eye enough. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm flashing back to the math portion of the ACT because I'm hearing you say this. No, totally. Like, I mean, I even after washing it like 25 times, like, and having it look like I had an eye infection from washing so much, it was just like, should I do more? Like, should I like go back and do another 25? I could have. Like, it was so gross that I was so freaked out by it that I was like, maybe I can go back and do more.
What did you do with the other egg?
I took it outside later, and I actually squeezed it away from me into the street just to make sure, because I was like, these seem really like strong, and I did it with a paper towel that time. I
was gonna say your bare hand.
No,
crazy.
God, no. I took it out in a paper towel and like squeezed it away from me because I was afraid that if I like just threw it out into the street, I'm like, well, it'll still hatch. Like, it's still going to come back in. It's so gross. And then I read that like if you step on a cockroach, sometimes they keep those eggs like in their back area, so it can actually like attach itself to like your foot. Like if you kill them, the egg can actually like
survive.
Like on your shoe or so. It's so gross.
So weird.
I hate stuff like this. I'm so sorry to do. If we have any listeners, I'm so sorry to put you through this. Normally, this podcast is not this gross.
This is why cockroaches live like through the apocalypse.
That's just like, I mean,
you can't kill them.
And it also like, seriously, I know I use Alien as like an example, but it was really like, I think a lot of like those movies, they just sort of take it from that cockroach like genus of insects, like, it's terrifying. Like so they're like armored and slimy and just like it's fucking horrible.
If it had gone in your mouth, opposed to your eye.
Oh, we wouldn't be talking right now because I would have committed suicide.
Oh no!
Can you imagine yourself though being like, I don't think you even would have searced cockroach egg. You would have rather not known, or maybe
I don't know.
I can't tell.
I seriously. I feel like I have a pretty good imagination. I can't even imagine that situation. I can't imagine what I would have done or what would have happened. I think like I was so shaken after that experience too for so long. Like I was jittery. Like it was such a traumatic experience that I think maybe I did do it in my mouth, and then I'm like, oh, like it was your eye. Like slightly better. Like I'm like blocking the memory. Yeah. Well, Colin, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much, Colin.
Thanks for having me.
It's
really
beautiful.
Glad this one could work out as well.
Yeah.
The horrible ending.